Reconnecting. Just an RGV girl rejecting the American dream. An image of the Andean Mountains. Cusco 2024. Beginning the reconnection process as a first-generation Latina. Honoring indigenous roots, connecting with family, healing through reconnection. The Valley is home to a beautiful variety of immigrants. I clung to that identity with all I had. Then I learned how to ground my feet. I realized there was more to my essence than how well it could adapt to a poisoned environment. I had roots under the dense dirt of assimilation, and you do too. Displacement. Displacement is the movement of persons who have been forced to oblige to flee or to leave their homes or places of habitual residence, in particular as a result of or in order to avoid the effects of armed conflict, situations of generalized violence, violations of human rights, or natural or human-made disasters. International Organization of Migration, 2019. Many of us are immigrants or descendant of immigrants. We carry stories of displacement in our memory, which can look many different ways. The journey of immigrants looks different among the socioeconomic classes. Some leave their homelands with nothing in search of something, while others come with a lot in search for more. Regardless, we are all forced to assimilate to an Anglo-American culture, resulting in a disconnection from our indigenous practices. Unfortunately, by doing so, we connect to white supremacist roots instead. Disconnection. When we get disconnected from our roots, we are not in control of our lives. We are not expressing our will to its full potential, resulting in many personal issues, including mental health. However, mental health is heavily overlooked in the majority of Latin American cultures. As a result, from the outside looking in, dysregulated behavior appears as a rebellious phase to parents of Latina youth, an unjustified one at that. For many parents themselves were not allowed the space to feel and explore their emotions, furthering the familial disconnection, placing more space between the child and their roots, leaving them with nothing to grasp except a culture not their own. Individualism and materialism. The American dream. Reconnection. Many people with Latin American ancestry are taking on this reconnection journey, including myself. Can we do it? Can we reconnect yet acknowledge our distance at the same time? Can we unlearn centuries of white supremacy? The only answer that comes to mind: we need to. While the process of assimilation was one of survival, the reconnection process is a labor of love. It involves unlearning assimilation concepts, returning to your own culture, and advocating for the liberation of all indigenous people globally. Though every journey is different, we all must start somewhere. So, before taking on and molding your own journey, here are some do's and don'ts of reconnecting. Reconnecting do's. Do listen to your culture's traditional music. Learning traditional songs and dances is a nice simple way to connect comfortably in privacy or with loved ones. Do your research. What do the tejidos from your pueblo look like? Do you have some tucked away in the closet right now? Do you have any traditional art displayed in your house? What does it look like? Can you point out your home country on a map? Do you know how the Spanish caste system impacted your lineage? Research deeply into your culture's history, art, and customs. But always remember, your relatives are the ultimate primary source. Do reach out to other family members. Many immigrant households are isolated from their family back in their home country. Probably would have never known of their existence if it wasn't for that random call on Christmas. And you're reading this blog, so there's a 70% chance you're an antisocial emo Gen Z kid. Reaching out first is scary. Take it from me, a previous antisocial emo Gen Z kid. Vulnerability is not something I was modeled, but had to discover on my own. Writing allowed me to be proud of my vulnerability. I encourage you to write a letter to a loved one back in your home country, whether it's your abuelita, who you rarely see but remember so warmly, or your prima, who you've never met but is roughly around your age. Think of it as a chance to share a part of yourself on your own terms. Do have an open mindset. Reconnecting includes acceptance for the present situation. In your journey, you will learn multiple things can be true at once. By digging into your family history and lineage, you'll discover different perspectives. See them for what they are, not for what makes the best story. Do research the politics of your home country. One, if not the most important message. Though some can choose to opt out of politics, the indigenous population cannot. It is imperative to see for yourself how Western lifestyles impact the lands we call home and the people we claim our family. Do recognize your American/mestizo privilege. Abya Yala is not just a magical land where bigotry ceases to exist. Though immigrants face oppression in the United States, it is vastly different. We must not turn our heads and disregard the racism and classism present in Latin America. Reconnecting don'ts. Don't hyperfixate on your mestizaje. Much, if not all, of quote-unquote Latino history has been Europeans and mestizos speaking over indigenous voices. Make space to mourn the disconnection privately. Heading down the reconnecting path requires empathy, not ego. Do not solely focus on your mestizaje or American status, but on issues that directly impact indigenous pueblos, such as climate change and feminicide. Newsflash, these issues affect us all. Don't appropriate. I intentionally placed do research towards the beginning of the list for a reason. The indigenous population of Latin America consists over approximately 50 million people who belong to 500 different ethnic groups. Not everyone is Aztec. In fact, nobody actually identifies as Aztec in Mexico. So, mama, let's research. Don't use blood quantums to define your identity. Indigenous people of Latin America don't define their lineage through blood quantum. Blood quantum is not an indigenous concept at all. More so has to do with how the United States define indigeneity. Don't claim all Latinos have indigenous blood. Latin America is diverse, including African, indigenous, and European cultures and ethnicities. By claiming all Latinos are the same or one race, we contribute to the erasure of the diversity of our people. Don't place your indigenous family/ancestors on a pedestal. Deifying a person or a group of people is a form of dehumanization. Just like Abya Yala is not just a mystical fantasy, neither are its people. Though our cultures have power and knowledge, that does not remove our status as flawed human beings. Don't judge fellow reconnecting folk. One of the most important roles reconnecting folk take on is rebuilding their community. It is important to not judge fellow reconnecting folk, but redirect them to better sources. Don't allow disrespect to indigenous pueblos, but without speaking over them. In order to move forward as a collective, we cannot scrutinize each other endlessly, especially when we are disconnected ourselves. I hope you found this helpful on your journey. If you did, I'd be so grateful if you could send it to a loved one to help spread the word of reconnection in the Rio Grande Valley. If you have any questions, comments, or compliments, make sure to send me a message on Message Malcriada. See you on the other side. All love, Sadria Knives.